Overview. Women performed a crucial task in the American Revolution, organizing driver fund supplies for the troops, and working in military camps to train the wounded soldiers. One of the most common ways that the women support the war effort was by making housepun and homemade cloth that took the revolution symbol after the colonialists imposed boycotts on British goods, including textile. Some women even acted as spies. At the last documentary case of a woman disguised herself as a man to fight for the war. The American Revolution. By the time the British imposed the Contribution Acts of the Interracial Acts, as known, they became known North American colonies, revolutionized the settlements and activism of the been on rise. The Colonials Act passed 1774 as punishment for the Boston Tea Party, during which Boston Radical dumped over 300 crates of British tea into the harbor. It was Prosperity's straw and broke the camel's back. It continued to loyal, but the mother country and some sovereignties have not reacted quick enough and can no longer afford to live under the rock and the true rule of British Crimea. To unify the units of the colonialists in opposing to continue the colonialist control rule. The Daughters of Liberty, housepun. After the British Parliament has passed the Stamp Act, the Daughters of Liberty, who were formed on the organization when the composite society of women who thought that the condemnation of their loyalty and revolution was caused by boycotting British goods, making their own, and the Martha Washington, wife George Washington, and one of the most vivacious theorems, the Daughter of Liberty. Not only were women forbidden for the war efforts imposed on the British goods, they were also spearheads domestic abolition efforts, because most textile in the colonies were imported from Britain. Waving homespun cloth became an act of politician rebellion. The Daughter of Liberty made public, domestically and spinningly, such as one Newport, Rogue Island, where 92 women gathered in a meeting of an house, produced 700 skeletons of yarn. Women served in the war effort in other ways: sewer, uniform, blanket for soldiers, making bullets and raising funds for the war effort. Many women have left their homes, attend their husbands' business affairs, and property began replenishing extra responsibilities for themselves as successful managers. Therefore, the scope of the considered women's work line, for instance, Astrid and Reed, for wife of George Washington, former secretary, and officially a volunteer for Association for the Clothing Troop. She spearheaded fundraising campaign, raised $300,000 in society of the 6 states, inspired many local churches to support the effort and join her. Revolution women. Although women were banned from serving in the army of the military, they associated in cause of crucial ways. Wives, girlfriends, daughters, and sisters of soldiers and officers joined the camps to perform important tasks. Martha Washington accomplished her husband, General George Washington, during much of the war. These camps followers, as they called, cooked, cleaned, sewed mend uniform, tend to the ill and injured. They hear the farm and animal milk cows. They fought food, observed, and described the women as the skinned beasts of the burden, and having to push the basket on their back, by which they were bent double. Some women show dedication to putting some of their own lives at danger, and they domesticate violence. American women acting as spies, these women would enter British camps and places of religious generals. British General Thomas Gage was married to an American woman, Margaret Gay Thatcher, who was possibly informing the British plans of the rebels. Although it was the violence, Miss Gage often have seemed to serve as a spy for Americans. The Battle of Montreal. Women or wives, girlfriends, or American soldiers delivered water to the troops and cooled the heat. One gunner, William, always said his wife was always there for him. Mary Luca, Hans, and his position had served during the battle in Valley River and the torch of the battle. Later received the Pentagon of the government that the wartime gaming with the wartime religions of Mary Carter. What do you think? What's your opinion on the most important women role that were contributed in the American Revolution? What is so substantive that would been happen? How do you think the women's wartime service have affected the views of the gender roles in the post-time revolution period and the war against British? Let me know. Comments below.